Kings, queens, beyonds, and in-betweens. Hi, and welcome back. In the last video of this series, I have talked about the songs Insecure and Jealous, and examined how Ennaria critically engages with beauty standards, themes of idealization, and journeys of becoming. In this video, we will look at the songs Fashion Hero and On Camera, and will focus on kawaii fashion and performances for select audiences, as well as self-curation and digital necessities of performativity in a chronically online world. Fashion Hero: self-actualization, distinction, and a performance for select audiences through fashion practices. Sonically rooted much more in electronic music, namely bubblegum bass and hardstyle, this song focuses on all things fashion, through the playful narratives of fashion heroes that are ready to support helpless normies in their aim to become fashionable. And while it remains playful on the surface, it also poses important questions about individualism, authenticity, self-presentation, and self-actualization through fashion and regarding practices of looking, as the presented fashion is not intended for everyone to see and judge. Already in the beginning, we get a sample that hints at the anti-industry sentiments explored later, by stating that things that are more expensive aren't necessarily better. I'll come back to this. Verse 1 starts by establishing and showing off the competence of the fashion heroes, who are aware of trends in fashion, but also in internet and meme culture, as well as broader pop culture, by their references of the Cinnamon Challenge, the Green M&M, fashion brands, and movie characters. Importantly, what the lines about not being two-faced and switching it up do imply is that usually authenticity is being connected with a coherent and consistent style, whereas here we are told that this is not necessarily so, as one can be influenced by different subcultures and also express oneself in different styles, as we have seen Ennaria do, while not losing a sense of self or authenticity. Especially in postmodern times, you can be part of many scenes and combine multiple cultural influences in your expression of self, that does not have to coherently fit into one category. Therefore, being authentic doesn't mean limiting oneself into having to commit to one specific style only, if you have the cultural competence like Ennaria to pull off different kinds of authenticities. What further happens in verse 1 is some sort of world building that establishes the distinctive features of the fashion heroes by constructing a contrasting phenotype of the normie, who is a helpless fashion savage that simply throws on a t-shirt and feels like they are dressed, whereas Ennaria's style seems superpowered, as she spends hours to get dressed and pays attention to every detail. These distinctions are important for the narrative of the song, as the fashion heroes are the ones in the know and able to help. So one can say that this verse aims to on the one hand establish the fashion heroes as authentic and competent, and on the other hand to portray the potential fashion has in enhancing the perception of self. As Ennaria seems to see herself as a femme fragile, but at the same time as full of grit, and seemingly tackling her insecurities through her extensive fashion choices that are built upon her knowledge about the subcultures they are aesthetically rooted in, which can be connected to the themes we explored in the songs Insecure and Jealous. Ennaria's statement to have a foot in every subculture can be related to the point I made earlier, that in postmodern times it is entirely possible to participate in different scenes and adopt aesthetic elements of them, while not having to commit to one style alone. In the song, these different influences are additionally present through the name-dropping of important Decora and Harajuku brands, while iconic stylistic fashion elements of the scene era, such as cheetah print, are also named. Ennaria also reflects on the impact of her style as driving you crazy, which might not only hint at the devastating effects the male gaze has, that we've explored in Monster and Show Off, but also to the narratives we explored in Insecure and Jealous. Additionally, we might connect the statement to unpleasant interactions with outsiders that Megan Rose has explored in one chapter of her PhD thesis on kawaii fashion communities. There, Rose explains that for outsiders, encountering the social world of kawaii leads to a becoming unclear of the definition of the situation. What I mean by that should get clearer as I go along. This quote-unquote disturbance of social life as usual can lead to different types of responses, as pointed out by the sociologist Irving Goffman, who describes typical responses like giving hints to the performer about their behavior that doesn't fit the situation, ignoring them, or making assumptions about the definition of the situation and act accordingly, or to act with confrontation and hostility in an attempt to gain control over the definition of the situation. Based on these rather abstract possibilities, Rose shows how interactions between outsiders and kawaii fashion practitioners are actually playing out, as they often are defined by misunderstandings that lead to heckling, inappropriate comments, assumptions of cosplay, or some assumptions about sexual performances and regressions into childhood. In the best case, outsiders recognize that they are not the intended audience for the performance of self and aim to create space for the performance being carried out by the performers and intended observers. In questioning and examining the performance in a confrontative manner, however, the performed self is called into question when the clothing style is interpreted as a costume, which separates the performer from their conceived sense of self. Especially the assumption of cosplay is unwanted, as participants want their outfits to be viewed as an authentic expression of their kawaii self rather than just pretending. Instead, they understand fashion as an expression of what they are really like, whereas cosplay involves pretending to be a character that is found in literature, manga, gaming, or anime. As I've pointed out before, the expression of fashion can instead be seen as a part of the self, or who one wants to be seen as. The question of "are you wearing cosplay?" signals to participants the observer's disbelief in the self being performed. The sexualizing gaze is also problematized by Rose, who says kawaii fashion practitioners are not dressing to please potential sexual partners, but instead are playing with fashion so as to immerse themselves in imaginary worlds and explore their sense of self. Some of these interactions are attempts to define the situation that seems out of control, as kawaii fashion worn in the everyday can be perceived as transgressing certain norms about fashion and gender, or how one should act and dress in public. This then leads outsiders to possibly confront fashion practitioners about their perceived inappropriateness, resulting in negative comments or assumptions that damage the self-image of practitioners, as the assumption that they are merely cosplaying implies that they are in costume of someone or something else and can't possibly be themselves. Going back into the lyrics, the chorus then once again points out the originality and versatility of our fashion heroes that come up with new ideas all the time. Here, the fashion heroes are embedded into the narrative of the song as saviors, and their abilities are compared to those of Mahou Shoujos, magical girls that can transform themselves, and here possibly others too. A theme we have been able to see in the monster video already, when Ennaria transformed from her Decora outfit, but one that is also represented visually here, by the use of a Sailor Moon wand that sparks fashion transformations. In verse 2 we get further information about the clashing understandings of fashion. Normies try to replicate viral looks and focus more on designer clothing, while the fashion heroes instead stress originality and coherence. They don't follow trends. They look for inspiration in the underground or might even craft items to wear themselves. For them, fashion is not about showing off your brands as a form of symbolic capital or as status symbol. It is about making coherent, interesting, and original outfits that stand out. Those that need savings are so basic and indistinguishable, we can't even find them amongst all the others looking just like them in the club. Perhaps the most interesting line of the song for me is when they sing, "Don't fucking look at me if all you wear is Balenci. All you do is imitate who you try not pretend to be." This implies that an evaluation and appreciation of the kawaii fashion is not subject to the normie gaze of those who aren't in the know, and aren't original or even interesting in their own stylistic choices. The performance seen in the video is not for them, as they lack the cultural capital to properly interpret and appreciate it. Luckily, I am a girl who gets it. This might also point to the different forms one can be looked at. While insiders and those aware of kawaii fashion practices will look at you with excitement and appreciation, outsiders and those who don't get it might look at you judgmental, objectifying, or even with anger, due to your difference to them or their perception of fashion norms. Their examining looks are not appreciated and oftentimes unpleasant, and here the prioritization of simply wearing expensive designer clothes disqualifies you to have an opinion, as you clearly have different values and priorities when it comes to fashion, with no interest in originality and only after quick recognition for showing off your expensive brands. Overall, we got a catchy song about fashion heroes that are able to save the day, the industry, and the normies from boring stylistic choices that only resemble luxurious consumerism and a display of status symbols as teased in the intro. Instead, originality, niche, colorful, and daring but coherent outfits are embraced. This can be related to aspects pointed out in the article, kawaii effective assemblages, cute new materialism in Decora fashion Harajuku, where the authors write that key Decora principles are personal significance, rarity, affordability, and bright contrasting colors. Aspects that we can also see when taking a closer look at the aesthetics. The music video accompanying the song is mainly set in a kitchen, where the fashion heroes are cooking some outfits by the use of blenders, scales, pans, and ovens. The first outfit we see Ennaria in is built around a blue Machino Couture My Little Pony jacket, and more specifically tries to replicate its rainbow pattern and coloring that we see on the sleeves and shoulders. As we have seen before, Ennaria once again excels in layering hair clips with rainbow patterns, and other rainbow hair accessories like little bow ties in her ponytails. Additionally, there are a billion pastel rainbow plastic bead necklaces and wristbands, buttons and pins on her shirt, and many brightly colored plushies hanging around her entire body, really. Although we don't see it that much in the video, the outfit is completed by a bright short pink plaid skirt, rainbow tube over-knee socks, and pink Crocs. This outfit is clearly in line with the Korra and Harajuku fashion, although it features elements of scene aesthetics, mainly due to the raccoon hair and the use of plushies that are also influential in scene culture, and is similar in composition to outfits we talked about in Monster and Jealous. After we get some editing and shots from different angles, as well as through a kaleidoscope type filter, Ennaria gets transformed by Sabi, and now wears a white lacy off-shoulder top, a pink layered skirt, white wool leg warmers, and pink new rocks, as well as big puffy plush earmuffs and pink bow ties in her hair. This is a color palette we've seen on Ennaria before, and it fits really well with her makeup and hair, and I would categorize it more on the Lolita side, while still being rooted in Harajuku. After Sabi transforms her once again, we see an outfit much more closely related to scene and emo MySpace aesthetics. Ennaria is now a scene queen succubus, in an outfit that relies on black, pink and silver colors, and is completed by her rare hands and knife in hand. It features a black tank top with rhinestone pink crown and rhinestone silver tricks beneath it. It is accentuated by pearly and sparkly necklaces that resemble the color palette of the outfit. Further, she wears some Sanrio plushies hanging around her body and as clips in her hair. She once again wears a plaid layered skirt, the one we've seen Sabi cook up before. The outfit is completed by violet striped over-knee tube socks that have black laces and violet ribbons at the top. I really like this outfit, and it brings back some memories. After chasing Sabi with her knife and claw-like raw hands, he manages to transform Ennaria a final time into a more tame version that is likely the closest we have seen her to a Lolita phenotype aesthetically. While replicating the light pink and white coloring of other outfits, this dress is much more Lolita and detailed, embracing the style of doll dresses and giving Alice in Wonderland vibes. It is completed by white over-knee socks, hot pink hair extensions, and a lacy hood-type headgear. Therefore, the video matches the themes of originality, DIY, and the entanglement of authenticity and versatility we have talked about earlier. The transformation sequences further resemble those of Maru Shoujo's, as Ennaria spins and briefly becomes invisible in a storm of sparkles, before re-emerging transformed, similarly to the transformation sequences seen in Monster. As always, Ennaria also matches her logo to fit the song, and this time we are presented with her name in rainbow color pattern and accompanied by an actual sparkling rainbow. The letters resemble donuts with glossing and sprinkles, fitting very much the aesthetic of her Decora outfit. On camera, digital necessities of performativity in a chronically online world. Sonically, I don't really know where to place it. Maybe bedroom noisy electro? And in my analysis, I will only focus on Ennaria's feature part here. I believe the song touches on subjects related to the necessities of digital performativity and the work that comes with trying to make it in the music and fashion industry in a digitalized world. That oftentimes includes just as much self-curation and influencer lifestyle elements as the actual art one might want to be recognized for. Due to an omnipresent digital realm, it also seems to touch upon the everlasting need to stay in character and perform, while at the same time maybe addressing some personal beef or dirt on someone who might be a gatekeeper of the industry. In order to make it in this digital world, the character and performance aspect has to blend into every aspect of life. Ennaria falls, cries, and eventually will even die in front of the camera. After all, the currency of virality and fame is content and perceived authenticity. However, it is acknowledged that this is just a facade, and she is holding up a front till I run out of stamina, pointing to the need of self-curation and energy that is connected to this performance, aimed to be perceived by you. It is unclear whether the addressee is the audience as such or someone particular, perhaps a gatekeeper of the industry, as she is vying for the one and now seems to have some dirt on them, using it as potential leverage, which might bear the potential to enable her to act more like herself and break with the constant need to perform a character for the camera. Maybe. I don't know. As far as I am aware, there is no music video as of yet, but Ennaria posted an outfit accompanying the announcement of this feature you can see on her Instagram. Here she wears a white shirt with the "You know when I die it's gonna be on camera" lyric printed all over, reminiscent of the self-aware text shirts worn in McBling era fashion. We further see the pink and black plaid layered skirt worn in Fashion Hero, a pink spike bracelet and some rainbow necklaces and wristbands, white over-knee socks, as well as shiny white and pink sneakers. The message on the shirt is driven home by her lying on the ground with her nose bleeding, but still having her phone in hand and headphone cord dangling around her. The setting is completed by items scattered on the ground, such as pink monster, a Hatsune Miku figure, fake lashes and a mirror, among others. Aesthetically, we can place it into the scene and McBling era of the early 2000s, with some references to kawaii culture too. This marks the end of my in-depth analysis of songs by Ennaria for now. There will however be another part to this series eventually, in which I attempt to identify overarching themes and evaluate the remarkable qualities of her music. I will further examine the personal relevance her music has for me and will provide a specifically scientific view on the topics we have covered so far, by relating them to cuteness and kawaii studies. Until then, I have been Effie Limerence, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!